reliable alternative. You can choose any Medicare provider. You get telehealth access anytime you need it. And MediShare 65 Plus is a low-cost option for those with Medicare Parts A and B, and it fills in the gaps where Medicare stops. MediShare is a Christian healthcare community that aligns with your faith. People actually pray for you. They encourage you. And it's proven, too. It's been going strong for over 30 years now. So call now. You can get one low monthly price for up to 10 years. You're not stuck with increasing costs. You can do something about this today. Call MediShare 65 Plus. Find out how much you can save. Call 833-SHARE-55. That's 833-SHARE 55. 833-SHARE-55.
Here is the latest news and information that impacts you. I'm Derek White. A 21-year-old Salina man has been arrested after stabbing multiple people outside of a Salina bar. Early Saturday morning around 1 a.m., police were called to Chuck's Bar, where witnesses reported the stabbings. Police later found Dylan Henning and charged him with 4 counts of aggravated battery with a deadly weapon, felony interference, and 1 count of disorderly conduct. Both victims self-reported to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries and have since been released. And now today in Colby, the United Methodist Church will be hosting an early childhood development fair at 8 a.m. Intended for children from birth to the age of 5, development experts will test and review several milestones with you and your child. Topics include communication, motor skills, problem solving, and so much more. Bring your child to the Methodist Church at 8 a.m. For more information on this and other stories, visit nwksradio.net.
Rocket 102.5.
Overnight temperatures have dropped to around 30 to start off our morning with a west-northwesterly breeze around 10 miles per hour. As an upper-level ridge will be moving across the Rockies today and the plains tomorrow, it'll continue our warming trend that started yesterday. And this afternoon, we should reach into the mid-60s and then the upper 70s tomorrow as those winds turn from a west-northwest direction at 5 to 10 miles per hour this afternoon to 10 to 20 miles per hour from a west-southwest direction tomorrow afternoon. And with sunshine, today will be very nice, and tomorrow maybe some high clouds. Overnight lows will be in the mid-30s tonight and the lower 40s tomorrow night. Wednesday, we'll have a dry, cool front move through that'll drop our temperatures to around 70 and turn those winds to a north direction, gusting 30 to 40 miles per hour. This meteorologist Chris Romick in the NWKS Radio Weather Center.
It's April, and that means it's time for the annual NWKS Radio Auction. This year, taking place Friday, April 18th, online at nwksradio.net and on our 5 NWKS radio stations. Start checking out items now anytime. Go to the events page at nwksradio.net, and we will see you here. Get ready to bid and bid often. Score some fantastic deals with the NWKS Radio Auction this year, Friday, April 18th, from NWKS Radio and nwksradio.net.
Get wireless on your terms with NextTech Wireless. Choose from 18, 24, or 36-month agreements. With all the latest devices and a reliable network built for Kansans by Kansans, experience our service when and where you need it most. Plus, you'll receive a $100 Visa gift card on all new lines. Visit a location near you today. NextTech Wireless, connecting Kansans.
Your livelihood is important to you. You work hard to succeed in your farming operation, crop, livestock, home, vehicles, and special needs. We have you covered. Discounts are available for new business, remodeling, hail-resistive roofing, multi-policy, and many more. Optional coverage endorsements as well for machinery ingestion and equipment breakdown. Umbrella coverage for additional coverage on your home, farm, and auto. See the girls at the insurance agency at 1020 Main in Goodland or call 785-899-5011.
Spring is here, and Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware has everything you need for the season. Get your lawn looking its best with Ultimate Fertilizer and power up with Ego blowers and mowers. Got a project? They got a surplus of lumber ready to go. Plus, fire up the fun with their selection of grills and griddles. Hoover's is also proud to sponsor the Pioneer 5K, 10K, half and full marathon supporting Colby Community College cross country on April 26th and remind you to sign up and participate. It's Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware in Goodland and Colby, your one-stop shop for spring.
Earl Chevrolet GMC in Goodland, Kansas is hiring now, looking for technicians of all levels and a service advisor to join their team. Enjoy competitive wages, consistent work, plus 401k and health benefits, all in a great work environment. If you're ready for a rewarding career with a trusted dealership, apply today. Visit them in person on South Commerce Road in Goodland or apply on Facebook. Join the Hurl Chevrolet GMC family today.
The Farmers State Bank of Oakley has been financing agriculture since the day we opened our doors. Hello, this is Corbin, and we are proud to be your locally owned partner in ag. We invite you to come and visit with us when you need to purchase new or used farm equipment or need any type of agriculture or business loan. We have the knowledge, experience, and financial resources to keep you growing. The Farmers State Bank of Oakley, a tradition of community and agriculture for over 115 years. Member FDIC.
Goodland's Rocket 102.5 is your home for Goodland High School athletics. From touchdowns and three-pointers to home runs, Ross Volkmer has you covered with all the action. Join him for live broadcast on Goodland's Rocket 102.5, your front row seat to the Cowboys and Cowgirls. Select games video streamed on the Goodland Voice. GHS athletics this season are made possible in part by
Outdoor Bank, Mossbarger Family Farms, FNB Bank, Edward Jones Financial Advisor Chris Yost, and Ranchland.com and broker Craig Townsend.
You ready? Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4! It's the Morning Blitz with Ross Volkmer.
The amount of money getting thrown around to quarterbacks who haven't done diddly squat is amazing to me.
The region's only local sports talk.
Listen to this guy. He knows what he's talking about.
Broadcasting on Goodland's Rocket 102.5, simulcasting on Goodland's 730 Gold KLOE.
Guys everywhere.
Discussing it all from the preps.
It's been a long, long time. But the Goodland Cowboys are going to play for a state title.
To the pros.
How about a walk-off grand slam? Touch of all time, Ryan McMahon.
The Blitz is presented by Pearl Chevrolet GMC, Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware, and F&B Bank, as well as the Insurance Agency, Farmer State Bank in Oakley, the Cowboy Corner Express, and Equity Bank of Hoxie, Quinter, and Grinnell.
Let's go to work.
Goodman swings, pulls it through the hole on the right side for a base hit. Doyle's going to score. Tovar scores. And a good feeling for Hunter Goodman. After a tough weekend, he gets a two-run single. 12-4 Rocky.
James, long pass down the floor. Cryer tips it. Loose. Knipple has it. Throws to Proctor. Heaves up a three. No good. Houston from behind. 14 down to the national championship game.
Joyce Edwards will throw it in, and that's it. Connecticut is back on top for the 12th time in school history. The first since 2016. The Connecticut Huskies are national champions.
Send in Wilson on the flank. Cross ice. Ovechkin fires.
Score! The chasing days are done. Alex Ovechkin is the greatest goal scorer in the history of the NHL.
My goodness, what a sports weekend it was. Happy Monday morning, everybody. It's April the 7th. Glad you're with us here on the Morning Blitz. No matter for joining us, of course, on 102.5, Rocket 102.5, NWKSradio.net, or maybe you are tuning in on the Hurl Chevrolet GMC video stream on YouTube, Facebook, and X. Thank you so much for being a part of this Monday program. Hope everyone had a phenomenal weekend. Weather actually seemed to be a little bit better than what people thought initially after, of course, that wonderful rain we got a few days ago. The sun came out and shined. Might have been a little cool at times on Saturday and even a little brisk at times on Sunday. But if you got out in the sun, it was a really, really nice weekend weather-wise. And, boy, we're shooting up to be a really nice week of weather here in this second, what is it, the first full week of April? Yeah, first true full week of April, as we're going to see plenty of good weather coming our way today. Temperatures around the low 60s. And then we've got temperatures anywhere from what is practically the upper 60s into the mid 80s. Looking ahead to Saturday, possibly some mid 80 temperatures coming our way. So some beautiful weather on tap and plenty of sunshine. And looks like only Wednesday will we see a little bit of it being a bit of a windy day. So some beautiful weather going to be headed our way here this weekend, and look forward to that. Today's program, a full show as it usually is on a Monday. It's my favorite day to do a show because there's tons to talk about after a weekend of sports. We will be joined, our guest of the day will be our good friend from KUSports.com and the Lawrence Journal World. That'll be Henry Greenstein joining us. It was a big weekend for KU men's basketball. We'll get to more on that. We'll also discuss tonight's national championship game between Houston and Florida from San Antonio. We'll get to the leftovers. We got plenty of things to talk about there, including a little bit of some local flavor in the leftovers segment after what was a very quiet local sports weekend due to, of course, the precipitation. But it is Monday, and everybody knows what that means here on the Morning Blitz.
There are two kinds of people in this world.
There's winners and there's losers.
Which ones were which this past weekend?
I want winners. Loser? You're a loser.
It's the weekend's winners and losers on the Morning Blitz.
Going to be a winner, be a winner.
Weekend winners and losers here on a Monday morning. If you got any winners or losers of the weekend, hit us up on the F&B Bank text line, 785-899-2222. Number part of the Morning Blitz each and every day. And once again, if you want to get in your winners and losers, we'd love to see them on the F&B Bank text line, 785-899-2222. First winner of the weekend, I kind of hit it off the gate there a little bit, but we'll talk to Henry Greenstein in more depth about this later. But Kansas men's basketball, I think, a winner of the weekend. First and foremost, the biggest reason that they are winners of the weekend is because there was announced yesterday that Flory Badunga will return for his sophomore season to Kansas. Now, there was a whole bunch of people losing their minds, and I believe understandably so, when I think it was 10 days ago, 7 to 10 days ago, when it was announced that Flory would be leaving to Kansas to explore his options in the portal. People were like, why is this? He was no doubt the brightest bright spot of a tough season in KU's mind, and something that they could build upon with his unbelievable athleticism and intensity that he showed on both ends of the floor. They were really, Kansas fans were super excited about Flory Badunga being back and to continue to grow in his career at Kansas, I should say. But after his freshman season, he said, I'm going to go get in the portal, see what I could get. Well, what happens when you go there? Well, people go back to the drawing board. They find more money to help bring young men back in this day and age, and they get all their P's and Q's put together, everything, get all their ducks in a row. And Flory says he will be coming back to Kansas after averaging 6 points, 5 boards, 2 blocks per game during his freshman year. Look, I remember watching Flory this season, and not being even a KU fan, but I remember just watching him this season, and I was just like, this guy has got, he certainly has some very, very big time piece. You know, you could see that his athleticism was off the roof, and even as a freshman, he was making big time contributions with his ability to play inside. That was a guy that I thought that Kansas would be able to build around in the coming years, and along with Darren Peterson that's coming in next season as a freshman. Those were 2 young pieces that Kansas basketball could build around for the future if they could make sure to keep them both happy and keep them around. Who knows, Peterson might be off to the NBA after a year. More than likely, that's the case. But for Flory, a guy that they could build around because he's a big guy who really doesn't play a lot outside. His mid-range game needs some work. His deep-range game needs a lot of work. And if you're going to play in the NBA, if you're going to be big, everyone has to be able to shoot from the outside nowadays. So a guy that they could keep around. Well, thought he'd go in the port. He went in the portal, scared some people. He is back, but it was huge to get him back because I believe he is now the cornerstone piece of building for Kansas basketball, even more than Peterson, because I believe Darren Peterson is probably going to be a one-and-done guy. And I think Flory could even be back for his junior year. He could be a guy that they could build around for a couple seasons there at KU. So huge news. He's back. And then Bill Self got a couple of transfers to come into Kansas basketball over the weekend. 6'4" combo guard from Loyola Chicago, Jaden Dawson, as well as the 6'7" shooting guard from Illinois, Trey White. Trey White's interesting because he was a guy who was committed to Kansas out of high school. He changed his commitment multiple times throughout his youth, but he most recently was at Illinois this last year, started in 31 of 32 games, averaged around 10 points. He's a shooter, shot 60% from 2 and 33% from 3. He also recorded 5.5 rebounds per contest because he is 6'7". So he has the ability to get hot from the outside. He is a shooter that every team needs. They need shooters. And then the other young man that they got that most people probably don't know about is Loyola Chicago transfer Jaden Dawson. And he was on a Loyola Chicago team that went 25-12 and played in the NIT this previous season. He was an all A10 selection for his play, where he averaged 14 points, 3 boards, and 2 assists, and he'll have 1 season of eligibility remaining. Bill Self said in his release, excited about Jaden. He has An excellent year of Chicago. He's got good size, plays the perimeter position, can shoot the ball. Great start to the portal signing. That was the quote from Bill Self in an article from fog.net. So great so a really good weekend overall, I thought, for KU men's basketball because they got Flory back, which was the biggest thing. And then they also added a couple of nice pieces in the transfer portal. That's only really the tip of the iceberg to what's going to be coming down the pipe for KU men's basketball. All right, we continue here on Weekend Winners and Losers here on this Monday morning. How about a shout out to Nebraska men's basketball, winners of the weekend, as Nebraska wins the inaugural college basketball crown this past Sunday over Central Florida, 77-66. In what was a wild basketball game for those who tuned in and watch, you would understand. But it was absolutely nuts because if you look at this game that happened over on this Sunday, it was crazy. Nebraska was up by 12 in the first half, got off to a great start, then just went ice cold in the first half and through the first 4 minutes of the second half, and found themselves down by 14 points, 49-35, with just under 15 minutes to play. Nebraska closed the game on a 42-17 run to win what is now becoming known as the crown, the college basketball crown. They have a trophy that is a crown, actually, that you can wear if you want to. Fox puts this thing on in Vegas. It was I think teams were in there for 7 to 10 days. You played 4 games over the course of that span. And the other big thing was that, there's a prize at the end. There's a cash prize. You can pay these teams now. And so the crown is becoming a tournament where you can make money. And Nebraska brought home $300,000 for winning the crown here this past weekend. And so, look, it was the first postseason tournament championship for Nebraska basketball since 1996 when they won the NIT. Remember, folks, Nebraska is still the only Power 5 men's basketball program to have never won a game in an NCAA tournament setting. Never won an NCAA tournament game. They've been in the tournament. They've never won it. They're the only Power 5 program to do that. But they have now won an NIT and now a CBC or a crown championship in their program's history. They just can't win the big thing. And so I saw this stat. Nebraska is like the only team to win a in-season tournament because they won the Diamond Head Classic in Hawaii in its last year. That tournament is going away for the time being. And then they win a postseason tournament, all while missing their own conference tournament because Nebraska did not make the final cut of the top 15 or 16 teams in the Big Ten tournament. They missed that. So they didn't even play in their own conference tournament, yet they win a postseason tournament, the Crown, and a midseason tournament, the Diamond Head Classic in Hawaii. That's an absolutely ridiculous stat, and it talks about just the season that Nebraska basketball had. They had a couple of guys in Bryce Williams and Juwan Gary come back after a season where they went to the NCAA tournament and got beat by A&M. They said, we're coming back. We're going to win that game for the first time ever. Well, they were in a great spot, probably in late January, early February, went really cold into February to the end of the regular season, missed the Big Ten tournament, missed the NCAA tournament, just need about 2 more wins in the regular season would have got him in the tournament. But they go to the college basketball crown, win $300K, and the inaugural the college basketball crown invitational. So I'm very torn on this because as a fan, I'm just kind of like, well, this is great. It's awesome. I'm happy for the team and for the guys, and it's cool to win something in Nebraska basketball because we just don't do that very often, obviously. It's happened twice in my lifetime to win that. And honestly, if you want to throw in any midseason tournaments, I think that's probably they've won 3. So it's not like they win very much, and they've never won in the NCAA tournament despite playing it a few times. So I don't know, but to me, it's a nice gesture, I guess. It's a nice way to send out these 7 seniors that Nebraska basketball has. But there's also a thing of like, man, it's too bad they couldn't have just won a couple more games and got into the tournament, see what they could have done there. So I don't know. But as Raleigh said before he left, he goes, they're one of 2 teams or 3 teams, if you count the NIT, that get to end their season with the win. And that's true. Another one of those will be decided tonight in the men's national championship between Florida and Houston. So Nebraska men's basketball, winners of the weekend, the inaugural crown champions, college basketball crown champs with their win over UCF, 77-66. But I'm torn on it. I am totally torn on it at this point in time. Continuing on a Monday's weekend winners and losers, Alex Ovechkin, a winner of the weekend. If you haven't heard this story, I'm sorry. You've been under a rock because it has been all over the sports world. But Alex Ovechkin, the great for the Washington Capitals in the NHL, he passed the great one, Wayne Gretzky, yesterday with his 895th goal scored in professional hockey and in the NHL, I should say, to be more specific. But he passes Wayne Gretzky with a shot from the left wing, just like his typical spot. It's kind of become his spot over the previous few years. But he passes it to become the NHL goals, the king of goals, whatever you call it, NHL goals king, though the guy who has the most now with 895. Look, I don't know what Alex. This is first of all, this is a goal. This is I should say a record that a lot of people did not think would ever get surpassed. Wayne Gretzky's 894. Not many people thought that he would that this would happen. And so for Ovechkin to get it done, and particularly he's had a great, more consistent stretch in his older years. You know, he's in his mid to late 30s, and so he's been able to keep his longevity, has been able to keep him going. And it's amazing to me that a guy in his late 30s is able to do what he does. And this is a guy who is not like Tom Brady. You know, Tom Brady is the picture of health. I mean, he's almost aging backwards because of his nutrition and diet and exercise. Alex Ovechkin, there's been a special on him running here over the last couple of days, talking about like what he eats. You know, he'll have like chicken parmesan and pasta. He is not a very healthy eater when it comes to it. He has Coca-Cola in his water bottle on the bench, not water or Gatorade, Coca-Cola. That's what he has. It's those type of things that amaze me, that Alex Ovechkin is having the surge that he's had late in his career. And I don't know if he's going to play another season after this. He's still going. It'd be fascinating to know if he is planning on coming back next year and playing another season, because I think he can get over 900 goals. Well, he should get over 900 goals, I believe, easily if he comes back and plays next season. But I don't know. Maybe this is it. He wanted to get to this goal and move on. But Ovechkin said after the game, he got it in New York against the Islanders. He said, this is something crazy, probably going to need a couple more days, maybe a couple more weeks to realize what it means to be number one. And, you know, it's been really cool to see the NHL family, you know, support Alex Ovechkin, because not only they're surpassing, you know, the great one in Wayne Gretzky, but Wayne has been there for all these games wanting to watch Ovechkin pass him. Being there, he's been there for pictures and to see it happen. It's been really cool that Wayne Gretzky's been there for these few games, waiting to see this record get broken. It was cool yesterday. The goaltender, Ilya Sorkin, was there. He was the goaltender that he scored upon, and Ovechkin asked him to pose for pictures with him after with his stick, and Ovechkin collects sticks, and he asked if he could buy Sorkin's stick, the one that it's really, really cool to see this. And boy, really, what a great year it is for the NHL, because remember, we talked about this weeks ago about how the NHL had that great All-Star weekend where they had, you know, the face-off four. That was so cool to see that. And of course, the great amount of the brought to the NHL, and then to have this piggyback off of it where you have a guy surpass the great one for the all-time goal-scoring leader in NHL history with Ovechkin passing Gretzky. So I think that's just really cool to see. No doubt about it. Really cool. Alex Ovechkin, no doubt a winner of the weekend. Now goal number 895. I'm interested to see how much longer will he play. It was his 42nd goal of the season, and it's only second to Gordie Howe, who had 44 in 68-69 for a player age 39 and older. So a guy in his late 30s that has done this now 895 times. Can he keep going into his early 40s? Can he be like Gordie Howe and continue to score? Because maybe he could get to 1,000. He's not that far away. 1,000 goals scored. And the other thing that's fascinating is to see people write about how they do not believe that this record will ever be touched. Look, they said that about Gretzky. This record will get touched at some point in time. As long as the NHL keeps going, this record will get touched. Someone will come along, and someone with the improvement of technology and equipment, this record will get broken at some point in time. I might be dead when it happens, but I think that record will get broken at some point in time. I think we will see 1,000 goal scorer at some point in time in the NHL's history. I think we will see it. Something will happen that allows it to happen. So Some people are like, they'll never get broken. I don't know. I think you'll find someone with advances in technology for health. You find someone who's got enough drive to be healthy, like Tom Brady, for example, in the NHL level, and is a great goal scorer. That record can get surpassed. By the way, Ovechkin doing it just in one game shy of Gretzky's career total. 1,487th game of his career. Gretzky did it in 1,488. So very, very cool story. Alex Ovechkin, a winner of the weekend. All right, losers of the weekend, real quickly. A couple quick losers. Tough weekend for Colby Community College baseball. They were swept by Barton here this past weekend. We talked about it a little bit on Thursday going into their big series. It was a humongous series against Barton Community College, the top two teams in the Jayhawk West standings. But Colby coming off and going into that series, a very random and weird 23-22 one-inning game loss to, a 9-inning game loss to McCook on this past Tuesday. And then that momentum, unfortunately, carried into the Barton series where they were shut out on Thursday, 7-0, 19-0. They were tougher in their Sunday games against Barton at home over in Colby, but still ended up losing 9-4 and 8-6. Game 4, they led, but could not hold it down and ended up losing 8-6 to Barton. So they're swept and tough weekend. After winning 12 in a row, Colby has now dropped 5 in a row, and we'll see if they can get back on the horse Thursday when they host Seward County. All right, one more loser of the weekend. I don't know how we couldn't talk loser of the weekend without talking Duke basketball. Blowing a shot at the national championship. It's unbelievable to see. If you watch that game, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you didn't, and you like sports, you should probably go back and watch it, because what happened in that game, you probably will not believe. With 8 minutes and 3 seconds left, Duke led by 14 points. With 2 minutes and 6 seconds left, Duke led by 9 points. Duke led by 6 points with 34 seconds left. They led by 3 with 25 seconds left. They led by 1 with 19 seconds left, and they lost. Duke led once again by 14 with 8 minutes left. My wife and I were watching this game, and my wife, after it all got over, because we were both kind of in shock, she goes, I didn't know why we were watching this game. They were up by 14 or 16. Duke was late in the game. I didn't know why we were watching the game still. Well, you just don't turn your back on the Houston Cougars, because they don't quit. And as Kelvin Sampson said, which I thought was beautiful, as long as you don't quit, you have a chance to win. I love that quote. As long as you don't quit, you have a chance to win. And Houston just kept fighting and fighting and fighting. There were some unbelievable numbers and stuff in this game here. Like, Duke never grabbed a rebound after the 3:24 mark in the second half. Never grabbed a rebound in the final 3.5 minutes. That's Houston's tenacity right there. Absolutely nuts. Did not grab a rebound. And I think they did not have a feel. Here's one. They were the number one offense in college basketball this season was Duke. They managed just one field goal in the final 10 minutes and 30 seconds. One field goal in the final 10 minutes and 30 seconds. So you think about it. All the points they scored from the 10:30 mark on, besides one, were free throws. That's all they got. And so they didn't make enough of them. And once again, Houston showed that they could make threes down the stretch, which was huge. And they snapped every rebound, it seemed like, especially defensive board. I know Duke definitely got some offensive rebounds, but they weren't really able to put it in, obviously, because they made one field goal in the final 10:30. So just absolutely nuts. Duke blowing that shot. They had a chance to play for that championship. And, it's a couple more points here. Cooper Flagg had an unbelievable season, but even though he was unbelievably talented, I think he might have been, to an extent, I feel like he might have been the best white player since Larry Bird, maybe, in the college basketball scheme. What he could all do, I was trying to run through my mind. Just his ability to make plays all over the floor was so impressive. But even he was not good enough to lift Duke to a national championship. And this was something that CBS Sports wrote, and I thought it was great. If he can't do it after that type of season on a team like this with all the youth and talent that they had, all this great talent, then no team is winning it all in the portal era with this many freshmen playing such prominent roles. you probably could have done this in the day and age of like Carmelo Anthony and stuff without the portal. Now in the portal, you probably just can't do that. You probably can't win a national championship when you've got so many young pieces. It's probably what it probably just cannot happen in today's portal era because you're getting a lot of teams with a lot of experienced guys coming together. Another thing that stood out to me from CBS Sports, once again, this is their quote. I loved it. Duke's inexperience played a major factor in its meltdown against Houston, whose average starting five is north of 22. That's Houston, by the way, an older team. Cooper Flagg and Con Knippel combined for 43 points and 14 rebounds. The loss is not on them, but waiting on one or two more scores from the best duo in college basketball, it never came. Just some unbelievable stats. If you go back and you look at this game, if you didn't get a chance to watch it, go back and watch it. It was nuts to see Duke blow that kind of lead that they had late in the game and the numbers that followed that loss. One field goal in the final quarter of the entire basketball game. And then no defensive rebounds in the final 324. Houston just got everything, outworked them. And like I said, when it was on our bracket breakdown show, I said, I believe that Duke is going to have a great run, but I believe they're going to come up short because of their youth. And once again, I believe it was their youth, their inexperience that was the factor that led to the meltdown for Duke. I believe that. Thought that going in, it happened, I should say, against a very good Houston team who once going to play tonight for a national championship. So fascinating stuff, but no doubt a loser of the weekend. Duke basketball had a great, one of the best teams all year, was top 5 in KenPom in offensive and defensive adjusted efficiency. They were fantastic. They had great pieces, but youth in an era where you don't have to have youth anymore because of the portal. You can bring in all these older guys. Youth did not get it done. Just a fascinating game there as Houston came back to beat Duke in the final seconds after Duke led pretty comfortably late in that game. All right, there you go. Weekend winners and losers here on a Monday morning. Let's get to a break. We'll come back. Plenty more to get to here on the Morning Blitz. Up next, Henry Greenstein's going to join us next. We'll get his thoughts on that Duke-Houston finale, his thoughts on the national championship tonight between the Gators and the Cougars. And we'll also talk about Kansas men's basketball and their great additions to their roster, including Flory Badunga being back for next season. That's all next here on a Monday morning on the Morning Blitz.
At FNB Bank, we understand the backbone of our community is our local farmers and ranchers. Whether you're growing crops, raising livestock, or investing in new equipment, we're here to help you succeed. Our agricultural loans are tailored to meet the unique needs of your farm, with flexible terms from people who understand what it takes to make it in agriculture. When you partner with FNB Bank, you're working with neighbors who know the land and are invested in your success. FNB Bank, rooted in our community, growing with you. Member FDIC.
It's time for a check of the markets with the Anderson Trade Group on the Kansas Farm and Ranch Radio Network.
This is Kate Thompson with the Anderson Trade Group. Today is Monday, April 7th. On the overnight last night, May corn lower a cent to 4.59 1/4. July down a cent to 4.66 1/4. September down 3/4 at 4.38 1/2. December corn down 1.5 at 4.45 1/4. May soybeans up 1.5 3/4 at 9.78 3/4. July up 1 3/4 at 9.94 3/4. August up a half cent at 9.91 3/4. September beans unchanged at 9.79 1/4. Chicago wheat, the May contract closed higher 7 3/4 on the overnights at 5.36 3/4. July up 7 cents at 5.49 3/4. September up 6 3/4 at 5.64 1/4. December soft wheat up 6.5 at 5.87 1/4. Kansas City wheat, the May contract higher 5.5 at 5.63. July up 5 cents at 5.75. September up 4 3/4 5.88 3/4. December hard wheat up 4.5 at 6.11. On the stock market this morning, the Dow down $710 at 37,820. The S&P down 102 at 5,008. The Nasdaq down $379 at 17,160. Gold higher $14 an ounce at 3,049, and crude oil down 84 cents a barrel at 61.15. If you have any questions about marketing grain or would like to talk about risk management options, give our Colorado office a call, John Hankey or John Stiles at 970-744-4484, or in our Kansas City office, myself, Tom Saluto, Jared Law, or Tyler Ghosh at 913-748-3000.
The Anderson Trade Group, proud market partners with Kansas Farm and Ranch Radio. Find out more at andersongrain.com. The risk of loss through trading futures and or options is substantial, and each investor and or trader must consider whether this is a suitable investment. Past performance, whether actual or indicated.
Good morning.
Morning, Henry. How are we doing today?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Thanks again for joining me today.
It is my pleasure.
All right, man. We're coming to you here in about 45 seconds, okay?
All right, sounds good.
Perfect.
Tough as a registered trademark of Belgium Crop Protection.
When challenging conditions arise, we don't back down. We up our game. Outpacing the competition with innovations fueled by Bayer's R&D, keeping you equipped with an expanded portfolio, elite genetics, and additional local test plots. Channel leads the field, so you can rise above. See how you can save at channel.com/finance24. Read and follow pesticide label directions, grain marketing, and other stewardship practices.
You're tuned in to the Morning Blitz.
And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
With Ross Volkmer.
Back here on a Monday morning on the Morning Blitz, 8:37 Central, 7:37 Mountain Time. Glad you're with us. Sunny and 35 to get the day going outside the KKCI studios here in Goodland. Currently going to be 63 the high today, but one of the cooler days of the next 7 days it looks like ahead here for us. All right, shout out to CW listening on watching on Facebook. He says he loves to see Duke lose. He'd love to see Duke lose that game there to Houston. With that, let's bring in our guest of the day. That's our good friend from KUSports.com and the Lawrence Journal World. That would be Henry Greenstein. Henry, good morning. How are we doing today?
I'm fine, thank you. I appreciate you having me. It's a busy time for basketball, but it seems like every time is a busy time for basketball.
It certainly does. It certainly does. What were your thoughts on that unbelievable Duke-Houston semifinal matchup?
I mean, my first thought was that I had kind of seen the way that ended before. I flashed back to January 25th, just like Hunter Dickinson did, as he said on Twitter. I mean, it's so remarkable watching Houston this year, how they seem totally unbothered by the most challenging late game scenarios, even beyond those two matchups. And it's just crazy to think about the fact that their only loss in the calendar year 2025 was by 1 point in overtime. I mean, that's a team that's done incredibly well. I'm excited to see how their defense can handle what might be its toughest test yet in the Florida offense tonight.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on tonight's national championship game, Henry? I mean, I think we're going to see a really interesting game, and yeah, I would agree. I think it will be a tall task for Houston's defense against Florida's unbelievable depth that they especially have down inside for sure.
Yeah, it'll be a clash of styles. It'll be kind of, as you see in Big 12. I think we all deserved a matchup between those two different conferences at some point. I think that Houston's bigs have risen to the occasion in this tournament. It's really been good evidence of kind of how Kelvin Sampson picking for a certain fit has worked out so nicely. I mean, you saw some of the work that Juwan Roberts was able to do on Cooper Flagg. JoJo Tugler disrupting inbounds plays, just like he did in that KU game. I think with regard to what you said, they will absolutely face a different kind of challenge tonight with Florida's bigs. But on the whole, yeah, an extremely compelling matchup. Walter Clayton's obviously been on a heater. And I think Houston's guards are not as strong defensively as they were in last year's edition of the team when they had Jamal Shed. So that could also be an interesting challenge. But on the whole, yeah, I think this is the national title matchup that we deserved after a compelling Final Four. And I hope that people will no longer complain about this being a boring tournament or whatever, because it is certainly not shaped up that way.
Well, the Final Four made up for it. I'll admit, I was one of those people who thought it was boring, but the Final Four made up for it, Henry, that's for sure. Henry Greenstein, our friend from KUSports.com, the Lawrence Journal World, joining us on the Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware hotline on this Monday morning. Yeah, I think we'll see a very entertaining, interesting game tonight between Houston. What are your thoughts on Kelvin Sampson postgame talking about, he thanked the Big 12 coaches in the conference. They didn't play in a toy poodle league, as he called it, which was interesting. Your thoughts on him giving a shout out to the Big 12 and helping him get this far?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, my first thought was he loves those dog analogies. I remember Big 12 basketball media days in 2023, he came in and started saying, like, this league, it's all German shepherds, like it's all big dogs. He loves the dog analogy for league competitiveness level. That was honestly my first thought, is like, man, that guy has the same ideas rattling around his brain from year to year. But no, I think it was a good statement to make, because all that the world heard throughout the season was that the SEC was on a new level and might be the greatest league that the world has ever seen or whatever. And that still may be true. I mean, they got an insane amount of teams into the tournament, and many of them performed extremely well. We had a 2 SEC Final Four matchup with Florida and Auburn. But I think that was a good move to give him appreciation. And he's right. I mean, Houston was tested in every conceivable way. They were tested by Texas Tech, the only team they lost to. They were tested by KU in a pair of matchups. They were tested by UCF. They saw a lot of different styles. They found themselves in a lot of different game situations, and I think that experience served them well in games like against Gonzaga, when that one started to get away from them a little bit, or against Duke. And I think that it all went toward making them better at the end, creating the version of Houston that we see today.
So what's your prediction for tonight? Who do you think gets it done?
Oh, that's really tough. I mean, I predicted Houston in my bracket, and it's worked out well for me thus far. I don't know. I almost wonder if this might be the SEC's year. No one has really been able to stop Florida. I think that in order to hedge against the possible success of my bracket, I will have to say on this show that I think Florida will ultimately claim it tonight. And like I said, Clayton's been on a tear, and I don't necessarily expect that to stop. So right now, at this precise moment, I think Florida takes it in a close one.
What do you think has to happen for Houston to get it done? What do you think has to happen? I was just watching something on ESPN. They were talking about how they think, like one thing they thought that Houston need to make 10 threes or something like that in this game. What do you think Houston has to get this upset of Florida? Even though I don't know if it's, to call an upset or not, I think it's two very evenly matched games, but two teams, I should say. But what do you think Houston has to do to get it done?
Yeah, I do think they might have a slightly higher volume of three-point scoring. I think that's probably a good take. I mean, all year they were one of the highest-ranking teams by percentage in terms of how they convert on the outside shots. It didn't take them too often, and it served them pretty well. But I think maybe a wider range and more frequent contributions on that end. You can't count on LJ Cryer to make 6 threes like he did against Duke. And he has shown the ability to be sometimes kind of streaky. So yeah, I think Sharp and Uzan have to contribute a couple early for Houston to do well in that case. I also think Jawan Roberts maybe challenging those Florida bigs, getting some of them in foul trouble. That could go a long way. I mean, you mentioned the depth that they have, of course, but anything they can do to keep some of those guys off the floor for an extended stretch. Those are some things that come to mind for me initially. Like I said, I do think the teams match up fairly well against each other in a strength on strength kind of way. But I'm not the first person to observe this throughout the tournament, but with Houston's defense being a pretty reliable thing you can count on, the burden falls on Houston's offense to continue to pick up its level of play. They did that with Cryer's showing against Duke, and now I feel like it has to be more well-rounded across the starting lineup and their fairly shallow bench. In order to kind of stack up to the scoring output that Florida is sure to provide even against the formidable defense.
Henry Greenstein, our guest from the Lawrence Journal World, KUSports.com. I got another question for Ed that doesn't have to do with KU, but about Duke. I saw this quote from CBS Sports saying that, David Cooper, Duke had Cooper Flagg. He was unbelievable all season long. Even in that game, he was amazing. And if he can't lead a team that is built with superstar talent, I'll be freshman though, from Duke in this portal era with freshmen playing so many prominent roles, and you can't win it and can't win a game or win an national. Do you think it's possible to win a national championship being a young Kentucky team was a few years ago, being made up of super freshmen, or this Duke team here? Or do you think it's just not possible now with the portal being open and teams being so old like Houston is, average age of 22.
That's a really good point. I hadn't thought about that, actually. And yeah, it's true. I mean, Duke didn't go too hard in the portal, yet they still had so much success all year with a lineup that prominently featured 3 freshmen. But I don't know. I don't think you can use them as a defining example. They still had a few players with some veteran experience. And, I understand that veteran experience will ultimately prevail in some context, but I don't think that this can be used to make too grand of a statement. I understand get old and stay old has been the defining mantra of the portal era, and sometimes a team like Duke won't do that, or like you mentioned, like a John Calipari team that's composed almost entirely of incredibly high-ranked freshmen. But I think those teams will continue to find themselves in the national conversation, especially because they grow as the year goes on. They might not always have the best results at the start of the season. I mean, this Duke team lost to Kansas, as you may recall. They might not always have the best results in the start of the season, but they won't really be freshmen, as the coaches or players would say, by the time March rolls around. I think it's still quite possible for this kind of model to succeed, even with the portal and the fact. And Duke was 30 seconds away from being in the title game, and then this conversation becomes moot in the first place.
Nope, you are right. Once again, Henry Greenstein, our guest here on the Morning Blitz. Let's transition, Henry, into KU. Boy, a good weekend for KU basketball. They get Flory back, and they bring in 2 new additions with Trey White and Jaden Brown. Overall, I thought this was a pretty good weekend for KU basketball. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's crazy how much online sentiment and public sentiment can fluctuate in the course of a week, because, this time last week, probably about 2 hours after this was the time at which, Coit and Griffin had just entered the portal. A few days later, Storr goes in. It's like, well, I guess we got a completely new year next year. It was basically the sentiment of the KU fans online. And then, kind of like, can Bill Self still do it? Can he really put a team together? Do we have the money? This is everything KU fans were saying, and it was like totally despondent. But they picked up some momentum on Friday with Jaden Dawson from Loyola Chicago. Nice piece there. Can shoot, can defend, got some athleticism to him. A proven record playing for a pretty good mid-major team. Trey White, veteran experience, good rebounder, can play the 3 or 4. Starting to bring in these complementary pieces. But then the news of getting Flory back, which I don't think people necessarily would have anticipated until maybe late Saturday night, because it really seemed like it was trending toward Auburn from everything that manifested itself during the week. That's a big sigh of relief for anyone who follows KU, because that's the guy Darren Peterson wanted to play with most. They'll be an excellent combo. You have to imagine he'll grow by leaps and bounds in the offseason. He's already a great rebounder and shot blocker. He needs to become more confident with the ball in his hands and develop a better array of offensive post moves. He also needs to bulk up and be able to defend opposing power big men better. But, I mean, with the start they're off to with those guys, and then Marco Jackson, Jamar McDowell, Bryson Tiller, and Smith Calderon, that's the beginnings of a pretty good roster. And I like the way that, because Peterson is the headliner, they've been able to stock up on complementary pieces that are cheaper, you would think, because they don't need to blow $3 million on someone like Donovan Dent to UCLA, because Darren Peterson will be the number 1 guy, whatever happens next year. So I like the way they're approaching it now. I still think there are several significant holes they need to fill. Like, they need like a real scoring option on the wing, someone to play a bona fide 3 position. They need more depth in the front court, just like kind of big, lumbering guys to counterbalance some of Padunga's weaknesses. But I think it's starting to shape up nicely, and obviously it didn't look quite as nice 3 days ago. So things can change quickly in this portal era. And speaking of things changing quickly, today is the day that everyone was trying to get in contracts by, because of potential house settlement repercussions that could take place today. So yeah, I mean, next time I talk to you guys, there will probably be an entirely different system of college sports in place.
No, you are exactly right. That's a huge thing that we'll find out more information about today, the House versus the NCAA. That'll impact college sports going forward for, who knows, a very long time, more than likely. Henry Greenstein, KUSports.com, Lawrence Journal World here on the Morning Blitz. Are there any names that you have read or seen that could be possibly coming up next to fill those holes that you mentioned a little bit ago, Henry?
Yeah, I mean, there's been discussion about a few. Nigel Pack, former K-State and Miami guard, has said he has KU in his Final Four, along with K-State, by the way, as one of the options. So he could be headed back there for it feels like he's been around forever, but it's actually just going to be, he just finished his 5th year, so he's got one more left to play. Pack could be a nice scoring option in the backcourt. It doesn't 100% make sense to me because I feel like that's kind of the guard, like a bona fide guard is now kind of lower on the totem pole behind the other things I mentioned. But, in terms of the backup big role that I alluded to, Sean Phillips Jr. from Arizona State, kind of a peripheral guy on that team who backed up Jaden Quaintance. Kind of see him doing a similar thing for Forey maybe. In terms of depth, because you can now go up to 14 or 15 spots, keep an eye on Corbin Allen, who's a guard from Oak Park High School in Kansas City, who is coached by Sharon Collins there and recently decommitted. He's kind of an unheralded prospect. I think he had one high major offer, but when you want to fill out the end of the bench, a 6'6" guard who comes highly recommended from a former program legend is probably a good way to go, and I would not be surprised at all to see him make his way onto the roster at some point. And, then there are some other transfers whose names have come up, like Evans from Colorado State. But I do think it's a little bit of a lull right now. There's like a dead period with visits and whatnot, but I expect things will ramp up more in terms of contact after today when there's more clarity on what's happening with settlement, and then also once the season is officially over.
Well, still, we're just at the tip of the iceberg here when it comes to moving pieces around and where pieces will settle when it's all said and done. Should be very interesting to see. He's Henry Greenstein, KUSports.com and the Lawrence Journal World. Thank you, Henry, for the time, my friend. Have a great rest of your week.
Yep, thanks for having me, and you too.
Once again, great stuff there from Henry Greenstein. Always a great guest. Love having him on. Great insight, great information. Once again, read his stuff at KUSports.com as well as the Lawrence Journal World. Also, by the way, did not mention it with Henry, but AJ Storr, he entered into the portal. He will not be back next year for Kansas after averaging just 6 points. So I'll be interested to see where he goes because that's that guy who could play on the wing that could score a lot of points. But once again, it just didn't really work out at Kansas for AJ Storr. All right, let's go to a break. We'll come back. We'll wrap the show with some leftovers and also a big thank you in the walk-off coming up next in Blitz.
Earl Chevrolet GMC in Goodland, Kansas is hiring now, looking for technicians of all levels and a service advisor to join their team. Enjoy competitive wages, consistent work, plus 401k and health benefits, all in a great work environment. If you're ready for a rewarding career with a trusted dealership, apply today. Visit them in person on South Commerce Road in Goodland or apply on Facebook. Join the Earl Chevrolet GMC family today.
Spring is here, and Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware has everything you need for the season. Get your lawn looking its best with Ultimate Fertilizer and power up with Ego blowers and mowers. Got a project? They got a surplus of lumber ready to go. Plus, fire up the fun with their selection of grills and griddles. Hoover's is also proud to sponsor the Pioneer 5K, 10K, half, and full marathon supporting Colby Community College cross country on April 26th and remind you to sign up and participate. It's Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware in Goodland and Colby, your one-stop shop for spring.
If you're shopping for a banking institution, visit with Equity Bank of Hoxie, Grinnell, and Quinter, Kansas. The Equity Bank is heavily invested in local business and activities contributing in many ways back to their community. Their employees are involved with many organizations and area events. Plus, a lot of experience comes with that staff. You'll find valuable local assistance when you bank at the Equity Bank of Hoxie, Grinnell, Quinter, and other locations in Western Kansas. The Equity Bank, member FDIC.
It's game time.
What time is it? Game time!
You're listening to the Morning Blitz.
Closing up shop here on a Monday. Glad you've been with us all throughout the program. Thanks for chiming in on Facebook or, of course, the text line as well. Thank you so much for being a part of the Morning Blitz. Wrapping up the show with some Monday leftovers. What did we miss from the first two segments? Plenty. Like I said, the weekend was full of stuff from sports. Shout out UConn women's basketball. They win their 12th national championship. They absolutely dominated South Carolina. And really, honestly, the Final Four. They dominated South Carolina. They won both games in the Final Four over UCLA and South Carolina did UConn by a combined average of 28.5 points. 28.5 points they won. They dominated. Paige Beckers, of course, the superstar that dealt with injuries early in her career, got this great supporting cast beneath her, and they went on to win a 12th national championship. It was funny to listen to Gino Auriemma talk post-game. He goes, I didn't know if we'd make the tournament because we lost a game that, a scrimmage game to another team. He said, I didn't think we'd even make the tournament, which was, a little bit of tongue-in-cheek there. But nonetheless, it was a great showing. UConn women just absolutely dominant, got on a heater, and no one could stop them on their way to capturing their 12th national championship. Once again, defeating the Final Four squads that they played in South Carolina and UCLA by 28.5 points. What a showing. Shout out to the Kansas City Royals. They get their first win of the first series win, I should say, of the season as they take down the Orioles 2-1. Kansas City certainly had a nice bounce back performance yesterday. 4-1 they win. Chris Bubich was great. He's been great his first 2 starts. He's been phenomenal. Took in the 7th, had 8 strikeouts over 6 2/3. Kansas City 5-5. They have a 4-game home series beginning tonight against the Twins from the K. First pitch is at 6:40 Central Time on AM 790 KHLX. Michael Lorenzen on the bump for them. Also, shout out to the Rockies who get a win yesterday. That snaps a 6-game skid. They blow out the Athletics 12-5. Chase Dollander, their top pitching prospect, gets the win in his major league debut. Look for big things from Chase Dollander in the years to come for that Colorado pitcher there. But they get a win, snap a 6-game skid. They are off today, by the way. No games on AM 730 KLOE. And then some college basketball news. Hoxie native and recently was in the NCAA tournament. Harlan Obioa, he was playing at UNC Wilmington this past year and was in the NCAA tournament, lost in the first round. He still has 1 more year of college basketball eligibility left. He is transferring into the Big 12. He'll be playing at West Virginia next season. The big 7-footer from Hoxie, Kansas will be in an arena near you this next winter, either coming to KU or K-State or even to Colorado. Because Harlan Obioa will be he is headed to West Virginia through the transfer portal. So we'll see him in the Big 12. And kind of on the same note, Colby Community College's Alan Mukeba, who I just remember just being a freak of an athlete for Rusty Elmore and the Colby Trojans a few years ago. He's been all over the place, played in multiple different spots, Oakland, couple different spots. He's actually going to be at Arizona State next season. So you could see him at an arena near you at KU, K-State, or Colorado. And he was just a freak of a player. And I remember we talked about him early on this season. He had a highlight dunk in one of the games, I think against Illinois or something like that. Anyway, but Alan Mukeba and Harlan Obioa, a couple guys that played basketball here locally, either in their prep careers or their college careers in junior college, will be playing in the Big 12 next season. So there you go. Plenty of things to get to in the leftovers. All right, on to the walk-off.
And back lifts his ball deep to right. How about a walk-off Gray? Thomas to the 10. Difference going on in New England. They win it on the first play of overtime. Mahomes swings it. It's there. Hardman. Jackpot. Kansas City.
Real quickly, some local sports on the schedule for today. Colby Community College softball hosting Pratt for a doubleheader. That's a makeup series from this past weekend. Fort Hays Tech Northwest women's softball on the road at Western Nebraska Community College for a doubleheader here this afternoon up in Scotts Bluff. Goodland, Coleman, a few other area golf teams will be heading to the Buffalo Dunes there in Garden City for the Holcomb Golf Invite. Beautiful day for golf today. And also Goodland Tennis in action today down at Garden City. All right, speaking of Goodland, last night I was at home doing dishes, and a senior boy's mom came up to my door and presented me, if you're on the Hurl Chevrolet GMC, this cool wooden plaque that the Goodland Cowboy basketball seniors have given to me in the Morning Blitz. First of all, and just wanted to say, they said to thank you so much for their coverage of Goodland basketball last few years. Guys, it was my honor. To the Goodland Cowboy basketball seniors, it was my honor to cover this basketball team, and you should be proud. Even though you didn't get the championship, what you did these last 2 years, making all the way to the state finals, made this area and this community and the people very, very proud. And I'm honored that you thought of me, and I love this plaque, and it'll hang in the Blitz room for as long as I'm here. So thank you so much to Goodland Cowboy basketball seniors. I'm honored. It was my pleasure to cover the games, and this plaque is awesome. So thank you, boys. Really do appreciate it. All right, that'll do it for our program today. Thanks to you, the listener, for chiming in and being a part of the program. Thanks to Henry Greenstein for being a part of the show as well. We'll be back again in 23 hours for a Tuesday edition of the Morning Blitz. We'll be bringing back an old favorite segment on a Tuesday show. Look forward to talking about that. So make sure that you tune back in tomorrow at 7 Mountain, 8 Central Time for a Tuesday edition of the Morning Blitz. Until then, have a great rest of your Monday. See you then.
Rocket 1025 KKC.